Parent-adult-child estrangement is a thing. And it doesn't matter whether you call it estrangement, which is what most parents call it. Adult children tend to call it no contact. Whatever you call it, it has become a thing. And it's not like we've never had it in our society before. It's just that we have more reasons why it's happening now. It used to be something that you would think would happen if there's been abuse or neglect, or if there's been a divorce and one parent forced the children to choose and they didn't pick you. Those things have always been around. So what are some of these new or bigger forces that are driving estrangement now? Well, one of them is that the son-in-law or daughter-in-law seems to be having more of an impact on estrangement than we've seen in past generations. That's it could have been around, but it's just having much more of an influence now than we've seen before. Another thing that's different is children may be deciding they don't want to be around their parent because they don't like their lifestyle. I don't like your politics. I don't like your personality. So those things seem to be weighing in more than they ever have before. Hi, I'm Dr. Jan Anderson. I'm a psychologist in private practice, and about a third of my practice is focused on parent-adult-child estrangement. And here's how it's showing up in terms of demands that adult children are making of their parents that we really haven't seen before. There are demands for apologies. There are demands that you respect boundaries. There may be demands that you go to therapy. There may just be a demand that you just go away. So when parents are experiencing estrangement from an adult child, it's one of the most painful things you could possibly experience. And it's also incredibly confusing to parents. When I'm working with parents, I like to position this whole experience you're having as what I call an FGO, a freaking growth opportunity. The universe has given you this opportunity to learn something or to adjust something. You didn't ask for it. It's not any fun, but there are some mindset shifts that can really make a difference if you're a parent dealing with this. And here's the first one. First of all, it can be really helpful if you just recognize that your adult child may be unwilling or unable to work with you on this. And here's what I mean by that. Unwilling. Adult children just have a different perspective. They're in a different place in life. They don't usually want the amount of closeness and connection that parents want. It's not where they're at this phase in life. But for them, they've got their whole life ahead of them. They can deal with this at some other point, or it's just not the priority for them. And that's a hardball way to say it, but it is something that's just helpful to take into consideration. You all are in different places in life, and just recognizing that. And then the other part, they may be unable to deal with you on this kind of an issue because they don't have the maturity, maybe. It takes social skills. It takes negotiating skills, conflict resolution skills. Now, like heck, a lot of adults don't have those skills, and your child, you may be expecting a whole lot more than they can deliver at this point in their life. And just being aware of that can just kind of help have a calming effect and help you move forward. The second mindset shift that can help is to recognize that there's been a shift in the balance of power between you and your adult child. You are now in the one down position. That's another thing that really sucks about this whole experience. You're in the one down position. And here's one of the ways it can play out is how your adult child may remember their childhood or their opinion of your parenting. You can run into feedback from your adult children that to you seems unfair, unreasonable, totally inaccurate, but you're in the one down position. You're not able to just, deny that. But it's so human to react in a way that you feel a need to defend yourself, at least explain yourself. And guess what? It's a trap. And it's not a trap because your feelings don't count and you don't need to process them. The problem is that isn't the person you need to be processing with. You need to be processing your feelings with somebody else, not with your adult child. And there's also a timing issue. If you try to lead a discussion or a negotiation and you lead with needing to defend or explain yourself, it's bad timing from a negotiating standpoint. The third mindset shift is to maybe rethink what you're getting from your current strategies that may not be getting you the results that you want. And it's good to just take a really clear look at them. The first one, I like to call it, what do you get from going Rambo? And usually the motivation behind that is just the amount of helpless rage that an estranged parent can feel when you're cut off, or just the righteous indignation that you can just get overwhelmed by when you're faced with this kind of, treatment from your child. So if you go Rambo, well, what I mean is, okay, you can fight back, you can retaliate, you can try to coerce, you can make threats, you can do all those things. And it's very human to do that because it can give you this sense of brief relief, like you get something off your chest for a moment. The problem, though, is that, okay, yay for you, you won the battle. Guess what? You just lost the war. Because if what you're looking for is to try to repair the relationship, going to war with your child is probably not going to help with that very much. But it's just so human to do it. So if you have done that, I hope you don't judge yourself too much about it. It's not effective, but it's very human to go there. So if you've tried going Rambo and it hasn't worked very well, okay, what's another move you might do? Well, an easy place to go next is you kind of go to the other extreme, and instead with as opposed to like a direct attack, you go indirect, you go covert and clandestine. And what I mean by that is you're tempted to now go to manipulative strategies like guilt tripping, subtle pressure. And well, one of the reasons it's so tempting to do it is sometimes it works. You can guilt your kid into showing up or apply pressure in such a way that they will comply. But the problem with it is what it costs you is you don't get the connection. Because who wants to be around somebody who makes them feel bad? So especially if you've been trying strategies and they don't work and it really starts to wear on you, this estrangement experience, it's easy to go totally desperate. Example, I think of a father that told me, I think if my daughter knew how much this was tearing me up, she wouldn't be doing this. My response to him was, don't count on it. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get a response like, okay, Dad, as usual, you're making it all about you. You're such a narcissist. Also, when we go desperate, another reaction can be you're pathetic and needy. So no parent wants to be seen as pathetic or narcissistic. We don't want to be seen as Rambo or manipulative, but it's just easy to be perceived that way. One of the things I've learned in working in this area for a while now is that when you make those mindset shifts I mentioned, it can help you segue into really a pretty simple strategy. There's just 2 points to it. Get more resilient and get more strategic. So when I say resilient, what I'm really talking about is just getting ourselves some kind of emotional stability and groundedness and sanity, because this is such a hard experience. It's incredibly destabilizing for parents. So there's usually 2 ways that you can approach that. How do I get more resilient? One is what we call, in my world, the world of psychology, we call this distress tolerance. All that basically means is there are ways that you can get more skillful at not freaking out in the moment with these things that hit you, that blindside you. There's another thing that's also helpful. We call it, in my world, emotional regulation. And that's more long-term lifestyle things that you can do to help make yourself not so prone to getting freaked out or overwhelmed emotionally with your adult child. And those kinds of things are more, are you getting enough sleep? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you getting the support you need? So resilience and developing that is incredibly helpful. It also is kind of magic the way it works with this second skill set, which is get more strategic, because it doesn't really matter which one you start with. They reinforce each other very nicely. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is, when you're in that one down position, that's a negotiating term. Well, my message to parents is you may be in a one down position. That doesn't mean you have to become a victim. So, with a negotiating mindset, one of the things I like about it is when you go into a negotiation, you have to take into account the other person's perspective. That's going to help you with your adult child. In fact, I think when you put these two things together, it's kind of like your superpower. If you can come into the next outreach or interaction with your adult child with more resilience and more strategic thinking, your chances of reconnecting are so much better. So if you're an estranged parent in this freaking growth opportunity that I described earlier, and you recognize some of the traps you may have fallen into, or some of the feeling tone resonates with you about why you might be going for those strategies and why you might need a new, fresh approach to this, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to work with you, whether you need to develop more of the emotional resilience or you need more of the strategic thinking or both. But one way or the other, let's translate it into a superpower so that you can accept what's happening and work for change at the same time.